What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Johnny Mack here. Just wanted to give you a heads up that if you are looking for a community that is open to discussion as far as mentorship, conservation, the wild, becoming a better person, and all of that, there is a group for you on Facebook, and it is called Soul Seekers. Soul Seekers, we are all about making ourselves a better person. We're all about making sure hunting lasts for generations to come and encouraging people to get plugged in. Whether you are someone who has something to give or someone who needs to soak it up like a sponge, this is a community for you, and I strongly encourage you that if you're on Facebook to join Soul Seekers, and if you're not on Facebook, hop on there just for that group. It is only going to be as powerful as we all make it. And so just remember that life happens for you, it doesn't happen to you, and that you can't outgive good. You can't outgive good, people. I want you to understand that, and I want you to believe it, because when we believe that and we lead with courage and we lead with intention, lives are changed, lives are transformed, just like on this podcast, transformation through primal adventure. Be blessed. Enjoy this episode. Talk soon. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Soulful Hunter podcast. I'm your host, Johnny Mack. Through this podcast, I'm on a mission to transform lives through primal adventure and to spread my mission of mentorship as conservation. This podcast is powered by Washington Backcountry, a resource for all hunters, both new and old. To find out more about Washington Backcountry, go to wabackcountry.com or search for Washington Backcountry on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. The Soulful Hunter podcast is also proudly presented by T&K Hunting Gear. If you haven't heard about T&K, then it's about time you do. I've been using T&K gear out in the field and on hunts and have fallen in love with their stuff. T&K is veteran-owned and 100% made in America using only American-made products. All their gear is covered under a lifetime warranty with no questions asked. If it breaks or fails, they will fix it or replace it for free. T&K is your resource for bino harnesses, bow slings, and a lot more amazing gear. For more information about T&K hunting gear, go to tnkhunting.com or search for them on Facebook and Instagram. I hope you guys enjoy this episode. Freedom on and stay soulful. The Soulful Hunter podcast is also proudly presented by the Crazy Elk Company. Based out of the state of Washington with products made in America, they are providing solutions with gear to problems you didn't even know you had. Their tag wallet is one of those solutions, and I had the pleasure of using it on all of my hunts this last year, and it is now a mainstay in my kill kit. The tag wallet is a water-resistant zippered pouch that comes with its own reusable zip ties to safely and securely store your notch tag for quick and easy access. For more information, go to crazyelkcompany.com and use the code SOULFUL with a capital S to save 20% at checkout. Be blessed, everyone, and as always, stay soulful. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Soulful Hunter podcast. I'm your host, Johnny Mack, and I'm joined by just a wonderful and beautiful soul, Jules McQueen from Carbon TV and Carbon Unwind, and just an absolute stunning human being and just a beautiful soul. Jules, thank you so much for joining us for an episode.
Oh, thanks for having me back on, Johnny. I love our conversations. And that whole beautiful soul thing, it comes from the inside. You know, that some people are just happy. I'm just such a happy person. I love that. I love when people can kind of like feel that energy, right? We just like to surround ourselves with happy, awesome people. You and I are alike in that way.
Yes. Contagious, right?
It is. It really is.
Being a health teacher, I always talk about if I was a school teacher, or if I am a school teacher, but if I stood at the front of the class and I frowned at students the entire time, they would more often than not frown back at me. But when I stand up there with a smile on my face, and if you like just stare at a random stranger and just give them a big smile, number one, either they're going to think you're a weirdo and walk away, but really, like, it's hard not to just smile back. You see a smile and you're like, yes.
Yeah. It's so true. And, you know, I find a lot of pleasure in life and trying to get people to think I'm a weirdo in those ways. Like, I would rather people think that I'm just a little bit strange, but me walk around smiling. You know, I think that's such a And also the other one of the best pieces of advice I've ever gotten in my life through business, personal, everything, I smile when I answer my phone, even if I don't know who it is that I'm answering to, right?
Yes.
Like, just it automatically enhances every conversation I have all day long. I feel like everyone needs to do this. Just smile when you're answering your phone, people. It could be really good news. You should be excited about it.
Right, right. Who knows? Maybe someone's calling me and like saying, "Hey, we'd love to give you a lot of money," and I'd be like,
Right.
"Yes."
Yeah. Like, what's your bank account number? Let me just transfer some money in there. You never know. It
Yeah,
could be really good
yeah,
news. So just smile when you're answering your phone.
right. And so there you go. Be open to the universe of what it has for you because it has good things in store. But you gotta, you know, you look at it. Is the glass half full or is it half empty? And rock and roll from there. So
And then there's those of us who are just happy to have a glass in our hands, right?
ooh,
I
so
mean,
true. Cheers.
empty, half full,
Cheers to
doesn't
that.
matter, right? Cheers to that.
Yes. So one of the reasons why I wanted to have Jules on this episode is to talk about the soul. More often than not, and if you've been following this podcast for a while, you've noticed that I've been doing 2 episodes a week, one dedicated to hunting because this is the Soulful Hunter, and one dedicated to the soul because this is the Soulful Hunter. And I think that is the beauty of it is getting outside the box, viewing life in a different way, and really, we don't know what we don't know. And I think that is like the biggest aha moment for people in life is like, I don't know it all. You don't know it all. We don't know it all. And so when we have these conversations with new people and different things, it brings perspective, it brings a different opinion, it brings different angles. If we're all viewing life and people are in all different walks of life looking at it differently, how do they see it? And so I want to invite Jules on here to talk about the soul and what she does for her and herself and her life because she has been a beautiful soul and a beautiful person to, well, for me personally, she's a mentor to me. So Jules, thank you for being one of my
Oh,
mentors.
thanks.
She's someone who I've called upon for advice in the hunting realm and different stuff like that. And so you're very business savvy as well. And I know part of your business is Carbon Unwind, which the last time we had you on this podcast, we talked about. And for the listeners who are following along and they're like, well, what is Carbon Unwind? I want to get into like what it was for you. Like, why was this such a driving force for you to create this? And also, what do you get out of it? Not necessarily like monetary gains. What do we get out of it in our own heart, in our own soul? So go ahead and take it away and tell the listeners like what is this creation that you've come up with?
Yeah, and going back to what you said before, we don't know what we don't know. I think that one beautiful thing in life that we can always come back to is vulnerability, right? So there's a lot of things we don't know, and I think it's beautiful to admit that and to start the process there in that moment of recognizing where we are weak in an area or we need to self-educate or become better in certain areas. And the story of the story of Carbon Unwind was kind of that. It was definitely a risk and definitely something that I knew nothing about, very little about, other than being an avid user of a product similar to this. But I saw a need for this service in an area of life that I have a lot of knowledge in. So I was trying to connect a bridge here and I was trying to connect some dots. And Carbon Unwind, for anyone who doesn't know, it's a sleep story and meditation app. It's free to download. It's a beautiful app. It's something I'm really proud of, but that was a big vulnerable moment for me as the founder of it and kind of the visionary behind it. It involves sticking our neck out there and putting our soul on display and really kind of taking a risk. And when we started putting the project together and my team started putting all of their pieces into place, you're making decisions on a daily basis and saying, well, I like the way this looks, but I also have to think, what will everybody else think about this? And that's the vulnerability part, right? Like, is my opinion good enough? Is my vision good enough? So we developed a sleep and meditation app based on nature and the outdoors, which is my passion. The study of eco psychology connecting ourselves to the earth and nature, and just becoming better people through the process of getting better sleep at night and meditating, for me at least once a day. But meditation, just to clear the air on this, it can be just taking a few deep breaths. It doesn't
Yes.
have to be, and it's a practice. So it's the practice of being mindful in a moment, right? So it can literally be just taking a deep breath when you feel that stress or anxiety, and kind of walking people through becoming comfortable in those moments, um, and recognizing just the mindfulness that can improve their life on a daily basis. So,
Yes.
but that's the long and short of it. That's Carbon Unwind. It's sleep stories, it's meditations. We have a kids section. We're developing a whole section for kids affirmations, which is really fun. Just kind of
You
um, trying to provide a service for everybody,
I
right? Just trying
I
to cover all of the bases.
I this is why I wanted to do episodes like this, is because you are providing so much for me in my life, and like I can't wait to just share this with the world. So a lot of things you just said, and I want to hit on these because they're just so important. I believe that we are taught to view outwardly nonstop. We always
Mhm,
think about what we're doing next. We're viewing the world. How's the world look at me? How's the world seeing me? How's the world viewing me? And I don't really believe that we are taught to look in as much as we
mhm,
really need to. And if life is a reflection of us and how we view the world, then we need to identify how we are and to take care of ourselves. And I love how you said meditation can be as simple as breathing. So I recently, um, I've been having a lot of anxiety around going back to working and teaching in person. Not
mhm,
because I don't like teaching per se, but there's a lot of things that I don't agree with, and it causes anxiety in my life. I realize
mhm,
also that there's so much misinformation with mainstream media and all sorts of different things that my childhood is bringing up a lot of childhood trauma for me. And I
mhm,
feel like whether it's the concept of the masks or COVID or the vaccine or whatever the stuff is, I feel like I'm being gaslit by society. And it
mhm,
brings up my trauma of my childhood of being gaslit, of being like, no, I didn't actually say that. No, I didn't actually do that. And it's like, no, you really did. I've been watching this. I've been seeing this. I've been experiencing this. And so I have
mhm,
this anxiety just constantly building up, and a mask, a lot of people, whether they believe the mask or not, it brings up anxiety and trauma in me because it's like this. It makes me feel like, well, what I believe isn't accurate, or what I feel to be true isn't accurate. Now, believe what you want. Just know that PTSD for the military is no different than PTSD from childhood trauma or any other situation. And so we have these
mhm,
experiences in our lives that are so powerful, and yet people or society has taught us to kind of brush it under the rug and not deal with it. Um,
mhm,
I feel like the concept of counseling or therapy isn't really mainstream. Kind of looked
mhm,
down upon, like, ooh, oh, it's like, well, if that was just normal, we went to a mental doctor just like we went to a physical doctor or all these other things, then we would be
mhm,
healthier, because health is spiritual, physical, intellectual, emotional, social, and then also vocational. Then, with that being said, going back to what you said about meditation, is at night, I've been finding myself, I always held my breath as a child and as an adult. There's times where I'm like, and I'm
mhm,
not breathing. And so when I lay down at night, I have been like, no, let's see how much oxygen I can get in my lungs. And I
right.
breathe in, and I breathe in, and I breathe in, and I just keep going. And I'm like, wow, I can't believe I'm actually still breathing in. And then I
Mhm,
let it all out, and I try to push all the air out of my lungs.
right.
And then I'll do it again, and I'm like, okay, I want to sleep. So, but let's just try this. And then before I know it, out like a light.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, one really interesting thing that, I have found just in my studies with curating the content for this project and trying to help people develop those, better practices around sleep and also just better health overall, which bringing oxygen into our bodies is literally the first thing we do when we're born and the last thing we do before we die. So it's a very crucial part of our lives. But one thing that we've been doing is actually on our sleep stories. So we'll go into a story that is meant to kind of calm the mind, give somebody, if you're trying to fall asleep and it puts a story, verbally into the room with you that you don't need to think about, right? It's something, it's written for sleepiness, as we like to say. But one thing we started doing is writing in breathing techniques a few minutes into that story. So you'll start the story, and I I like to say I'm a sleep expert because I do it every night. I really good at sleeping, but when our brain starts to relax and our body starts to relax, and then we start doing just a really mild breathing technique and bringing the oxygen into our lungs and focusing on the breath, right? So it's almost like meditative practice brought into a sleep story. It really does calm the body, calm the mind, kind of release a lot of that stress and anxiety from the day. And what you said a little while ago about your anxiety with everything going on in the world. So, I mean, Johnny, I know you're a well-educated, very well-rounded, very well-read person. You have an advantage because you do recognize what's happening in the world around you, and you have the thought process to realize maybe some of this information isn't right. I can think for myself because I'm a smart person. I would venture to say almost every person in the world has this anxiety and stress around their environment right now. A lot of people don't know what to think and what to do and who to believe and who to trust, who to communicate with. They've been cut off from communication in certain groups. They've been censored in some ways. They've been taken away from their families or put too close with their families. I mean, there's a lot of different scenarios happening. A lot of people are stressed out. So, what one of my passions in life is to extend the good fortune that I have had. I've found my peace. I've found my meditative practice, even if it's just a few little breaths during the day, or maybe it's 20 minutes of deep meditation. Whatever it is that day, I have a practice, right? And I practice it every day. I get great sleep at night because I know how to prepare my mind and my body for sleep. I educate myself on a regular basis because I do believe that those practices lead to better health overall. It leads to better relationships, better efficiency at work. It leads to me being happier and more cheerful during the day. All good things. There's really nothing
Yes,
bad that comes
all
from
good
any of these
things.
things. I mean, if I'm grumpy, it's probably because I either haven't eaten or I haven't slept. So, like you can rule everything else out. But most people are just really stressed and anxious right now. And I think that being mindful of that and at least recognizing, hey, I feel this anxiety or this stress, like you were saying, going back to work. Find something in your day that brings you back to center, whatever that is. And it can be totally different for different people. But I think just having those conversations and bringing it up and kind of making sure that people know it's okay to talk about it.
Yeah.
It's okay to talk about the fact that people are anxious or stressed out or scared. I think that bringing that into conversation and making sure people know that it's okay. We can be vulnerable in that way.
And it's okay to disagree also.
Yeah, for sure.
And I really, I love that. For me, one of the things, because this is all about our soul and helping, supporting ourselves through just getting a better life and having a better life. So for me, I think I have 3 children. I'm working. I'm not trying. I'm going to remove that word. I don't try. I am being a great father to my children, a good husband to my wife. I am doing my job. I am also having my hands in different areas. And I was like, okay, well,
Mhm.
the constant buzz of society, I need to also clear space for myself because in
Mhm.
this space, I'm allowing myself to feel the feelings I need to feel and
Mhm.
then acknowledge them to myself and release them. And so I know that when I run, not on a treadmill, because over the last 6 months, I've been trying to do the treadmill thing. And I've used the word try because it doesn't feel the same as when I'm out in nature. When
Mhm.
I get out in nature, it something changes. And I don't run with headphones in my ears. I go silent, nothing but my thoughts and the birds chirping. And so I was like, okay, I don't really have time in my day anywhere in the afternoon. Like, well,
Mhm.
I better have time in the morning. So I started waking up at 5 a.m. and going for a run. And my goal is to make it to a certain destination before roosters start crowing. And then
Mhm.
the roosters crow, and I'm like, okay, I'm ahead of schedule, or, and in this time leading up to me returning back to work. Now, by the way, listeners, I'm a school teacher, and yes, I have no issue with going to work. It is everything else that is with society, with that being said. And so I'm talking to myself and I'm also praying to God and just being like, okay, here is my anxieties. Here is what I'm having issues with. And I'm speaking it out loud to myself, to God, to the universe while I'm running. And then I say, all right, having anxiety with masks. I'm having anxiety with this. I don't want the cares of the world to weigh me down. And then I say, I'm giving it to you. I release it. I don't want it anymore. And I was able to walk into my building for the very first time and be like, kind of like middle finger to the world, being like, screw all you.
Mhm.
I'm doing me today, and I'm going to just get through my job the way I'm supposed to. And then I'm taking care of myself.
Mhm.
And it was really like revolutionary for me. Uh,
Yeah, the one thing that stands out to me that you just said was you made a conscious decision to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, to have a routine, not to put the headphones in, to have this as your time just for you, the self-care, right? And that is practice. And that can be a form of a meditative practice. That can be, your feet hitting the ground as you're on your run and the rhythm that comes with that and the way you're going through your thought processes and listening for that rooster. That's a practice. And that's something that every day when you set your alarm and you wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning, that is you making a conscious decision on a daily basis to better yourself and have self care. And I know that, self-care comes in all different forms. For some of us, it can be taking a deep breath. For other people, it's going for that run. Or other people, it would be getting on the treadmill or taking their dog for a walk or maybe even watering their plants
yes.
and like caring for something else that's alive. Right. So there's a practice that you can find every single day that can transfer back and kind of translate back into how am I taking care of myself and my mental well-being today? Even if to somebody else it seems so minute and so insignificant, but to you, every day, that's something that you're doing to better yourself. And that's all you can do because the better you are, the better father you become and the better husband you become and the better friend and colleague and all of these things that you are aspiring to in your life, you're becoming better through your own self-care and your own practice. And I think that that is something that people just need to be having these conversations about and saying, what did you do for yourself today? If Johnny, if you went for a week and didn't go for your run in the morning, it could begin to build resentment in your life, right? And even if it's not conscious at all, you could be taking that out on your loved ones or taking it out on your students in some way or having animosity or resentment or bitterness building up inside of you. But that self care is your way of saying, I'm putting myself up here. And if I'm great, I can be great for these other people in my life.
Yes.
And I think that that's a big part of it, and people start putting other people ahead of themselves so frequently, they forget that you need to fill your own cup up
Yeah.
to fill other people's cup,
Yes.
right? So Yeah, so your practice of waking up and going for this run, I think that it's crucial for you to be better for other people in your life.
Yes. And it's a domino effect for everything else, right? Because I'm waking up early exercising, I also then feel like I owe it to myself to eat better because I didn't
Mhm.
just burn 1,000 calories for nothing and, all this other stuff. And so it goes hand in hand. Also, this leads into the whole hunting aspect. My wife is like, "You need to go hunting, don't you?" And I'm like, "Oh, yeah, you're noticing?" She's like, "Yeah, I notice." I'm like,
I love her. That's such a what a wonderful thing to have recognition for your loved ones in that way, right? To recognize their needs and desires and what makes them feel more alive. I think a lot of people, we hear, obviously, you and I have a lot of the same friends and a lot of the same interests. A lot of people, there's a jealousy there, the wife or the husband.
"Mhm,
Um, they'll be a little bit jealous of that time that you go spend in the mountains or you're away or, whatever that is. But I think that her ability to recognize how wonderful that is for your soul, it's just such a beautiful thing.
yeah, it's really powerful, and that's a part of our marriage being stronger and working on our marriage is the fact that we also recognize that for each other, and we get
Mhm.
to return that as a gift and bless each other with that. One of the things
Yeah.
that you said earlier about the Carbon Unwind app is affirmations,
Mhm.
and I know that affirmations are something that are missing in today's society and in the way this world
Mhm.
works. I
Right. Yeah.
No, go ahead, because I have some
Well,
personal
it's
stories.
all how we talk to ourselves, right?
Yeah.
I can say so many nice things to you, or I can call my best friend and say some really nice things to her. I can, talk to my colleagues at work and say amazing things to them and build them up. But how am I talking to myself every day? Am I really building myself up and setting myself up for success? And those are affirmations. And every day, we have to be mindful of how we're speaking to ourselves. And, I know you and I in the past during our conversations, we've talked about kind of this whole thing with, the I am affirmations. And I mean, I took it so far as to tattoo it on my body. I am right there. I see it every day. And, it's something that I truly believe in. I really do credit a lot of my happiness and my success and my ability to move through life with my daily looking myself in the mirror and, I can do anything I want to do. I really can. I
Yeah.
believe in myself a lot. And and I deserve that, right? I deserve that confidence and that self-love and
You
self-care.
you are deserving. We are
Yeah,
deserving. Everyone
right,
is deserving of the love,
right.
of the affection, of the attention that they crave.
And one thing that if I, if and this is one of the vulnerability things. I wish somebody had taught me that at a younger age. So that's part of the reason why we're doing a kids affirmation section in the app. I believe that kids, of all ages, start them really young, 3, 4 years old, start them daily affirmations, sitting, looking at yourself in the mirror and saying, I am smart. I am capable of doing amazing things. I can be nice to people. If I see something happening, I have a right to speak up about it, right? And just affirming those things that they already like about themselves or that they need to like more about themselves. So I'm actually doing some of the writing on the kids' affirmations, and we hire some writers, to write them as well. But that's a healthy practice. Writing affirmations, knowing that little kids are gonna be saying these out loud, to me, I go to bed happier at night. If
Yeah.
I just wrote some affirmations and I know it could potentially, enhance the lives of some little people out there, that's a beautiful thing. That's kind of a contribution to the world and to society that I never knew I would have the opportunity, to take
It's
a part
so
of.
powerful. So, one of the things I wanted to talk about affirmations is you took it all the way. You went with the tattoo on I am.
Mhm.
I took a dry erase marker on my mirror every morning or every night or whenever I'm standing in front of my mirror. I have I am courageous, and then I have my contract of I am a powerful, inspiring, loving leader on my
Right.
mirror, and I read
Uh-huh.
that out loud to myself. It's like every time I feel scared or doubtful, it's like, no, I'm courageous.
Right.
Awaken the lion inside of me. Like, let's go. This is
Right.
my life. I get to live it. I am the
Yeah.
ruler of my domain. Well, being a father of three little boys, and my goal is to always love my children and do better for them. And, the whole concept of leave the world a better place than how you found it, right?
Mhm.
And so I have a 4-year-old and a 6-year-old, and at night, part of our bedtime routine, and I love that I'm going to get them to start speaking it themselves. But
Mhm.
some of the easiest ways I've gotten them to go to sleep at night is just putting my hand on their back, rubbing their back, and being like, you are powerful. You are loved. You are
Mm.
safe. You are smart. You are beautiful. You are
Mhm.
funny. You're fast. You are, like all the things that kids just love to crave and hear. And it's like, yes, you are anything. Some of those things you might excel in more or you choose to pursue more than others, but you're
Mhm.
anything you want to be. And to just
Right.
acknowledge them for who they are. I pulled up like what is an affirmation online, and it says affirmations motivate, inspire, and encourage us to take action to realize our goals. And I was like, wow, who doesn't want affirmations in their life after after hearing that?
Right. It's so true. And we affirm those things for other people in our daily lives, and we just have to remember to do it for ourselves as well. I don't have children of my own, but I feel like if I did, that would be a non-negotiable for me because it is something I wish someone had done for me more, as a child. I feel like if I had learned that earlier, I could have maybe moved around some situations in life a little bit easier, or maybe I would have believed in myself a little bit sooner.
Hmm.
I mean, it could have set me up for success a little bit more rapidly. So just knowing that parents are, and I actually got the idea to add this into the app from a girlfriend of mine, Sabrina. She has a daughter, Iris, and she called me one day and said, Iris does her daily affirmations, and she it makes her just more confident and more amazing. And I was like, uh, who doesn't want that in their lives as a parent? To see your child really kind of excelling in those areas. So,
Yeah,
um,
we read these, well, the royal we, parents read the book, The Little Engine That Could, to their children, or
Mhm.
we're told this story about, I think I can, I think I can, I think I can, to all of a sudden, I know I can, I know I can, to all of a sudden, I can, I
It's so
can.
true.
And it's like,
Yep.
that is affirmations. But
Yeah.
instead of saying, I think I can, it's just, you are. You
Right.
were made, and obviously everyone has different views and values and beliefs and all this, but I believe that we're made in the image of God. And if the God is all powerful, all knowing, all everything, he is the creator, and if we're made in his image, then we are creators in our own right. And so
Mhm.
we are powerful. We can do anything. And Philippians 4:13 in the Bible says we can do all things through Christ who strengthens us. Well, why can we? Because we are made in his image, therefore we can do anything we want.
Right.
It's all about intention and then really sticking to it and believing in yourself, right? If
Mhm.
like if you constantly are like, oh, I don't have that skill set, well, yeah, you're never gonna get that skill set.
Right.
you know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's so interesting, very fascinating. It's like you said earlier, it's like the psychology is
Yeah, and it's a daily practice, and you have to kind of keep yourself motivated in this. We all have bad days, don't get me wrong. I mean, there are some days that, one bad thing happens and it snowballs into, oh my gosh, this day sucks, and even those of us who try to remain positive and have this great outlook and whatever, we all have bad days. Like, don't
absolutely, absolutely.
don't mistake my positive attitude for, me just living in la la land, like nothing bad ever happens. I mean, bad things happen. But it's the lens that we look through, right? So, and also I will say one key element to moving through those a little more rapidly is, who do you surround yourself with?
Yes.
I put people in my life who I can call them during those bad moments and those bad times, those bad just something really terrible happens in my day, and I have on speed dial a list of people, Jana very well, my best friend. Like,
Yep.
I'll tell you, if I have a bad moment in my day, I call her because she'll find that silver lining for me.
Yeah.
And I do the same for her. And then, all of these wonderful, positive people that I've manifested into my world. And I know if anything happens and I need to switch that lens and switch it around, and like, okay, how do I see this from a different angle? It instantly changes your life if you have people around you who are not celebrating the negative,
Yes.
right? And, oh, this is terrible. You're right. This is a bad day. No, I want people around me who are going, oh, come on, Jules. Like, don't be silly. That's not that bad. In the grand scheme of things, like, let's think positively about this. There's a lot of good. If there's one bad thing in my day that happens, I can name 12 good things. So I think that's really crucial for people to just be mindful of who they're surrounding themselves with as well.
Totally. We're the sum of the people we surround ourselves with, right? And I
Yeah.
remember this last week when I was having a lot of emotions, and I always talk about on this podcast, like, well, life happens for you, it doesn't happen to you. Life happens for you, it doesn't happen to you. Life happens for you, it doesn't
Mhm.
happen to you. And I'm getting all these feelings, and my wife is like, so what are you, a hypocrite? On your podcast talking about life happens for you, doesn't happen to you, blah blah blah, and here you are feeling this way. And it was like a cold stiff slap in the face, and I was like, doggone it, thank you,
Mm.
I needed that. And you're right, this sucks, and I'm going to make it better, because at the end of the day we do have what's called freedom, and freedom to
Yep,
choose. We can choose
that's right.
how we want to view the world, how we want to show up in the world, how we want to experience the world. And
That's right.
it doesn't
Yeah,
it doesn't
and
mean it doesn't suck. We just
that's
always have
right.
that choice.
The only difference is now we know how to take deep breaths, and we have the ability to move past those situations without letting it affect our overall energy,
Yeah,
right?
totally.
I mean, that's really what it is. It doesn't mean bad things aren't still gonna happen. It just means that we breathe into it and go on to the next thing.
Right. I know you love to read books. I'm reading a book right now that is like, talk about the timing of life.
Mhm.
Once again, there's no coincidences. I'm reading the book Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. Have you ever read that?
No, I haven't read that.
Oh, baby. Whew, let me tell
Is it
you.
amazing?
Yeah, so Viktor Frankl was one of the leading minds in psychology in Europe.
Uh-huh.
He and Freud came onto the
Mhm,
scene about the same time.
mhm,
Well, Viktor Frankl was a Jew, and he got put in
mhm,
Auschwitz, and he got put in internment camps, and he ended up writing this book about man's search for meaning. And he writes it in this perspective, like, he's in an internment camp. Everything that we would consider good in life has been stripped away.
mhm.
And yet, what is the point then, right? Is our point just to suffer? Is it to thrive? Is it just to survive? And
Mhm.
I'm not going to give the book away, because I believe listeners really should dive into this themselves.
Yeah.
But the concept, I was like, okay, here this guy is. I don't know what it's like to be in an internment camp, but I've seen pictures of what the people that were in internment camps look like when they were liberated, and it looked like hell. It was hell,
Right.
hell on earth. And yet here he is writing about how he viewed the world, and how this perspective of what is the actual worst thing, you know.
Mhm.
And I was like, wow, talk about timing. And it went back to this
Right.
whole concept of freedom, because it doesn't matter how enslaved the world tries to put us under. At the end of the day,
Mhm.
they can't put our mind under unless we give them our mind. So
Right.
the moment that we succumb to that is the minute that we choose to give up the freedom. And then
Right.
that also ended up leading to death, because at that point there was, for a lot of people, just no more point. It's really
Right.
interesting.
Yeah, it's the freedom and the struggle of having free choice on how to think about things, right? I mean, it's a beautiful thing to have our own minds and to be able to make those decisions on how we're going to look at the world around us. But it's also the struggle in life is, you know, being concerned that maybe we're not looking at it the right way, or you know, for some people who maybe didn't have the um, the blessing of education or the blessing of a family structure, or they were born into a situation where they weren't set up for success in some ways, so having to kind of maneuver through life and understand these situations and learn the hard way, right? And so I don't know. I think that I'm definitely going to read that book first of all, but those types of stories, understanding the things that other people have gone through in life, it's not just about making us feel like, oh wow, I'm so lucky I didn't have to go through that. It's understanding that even if something that I go through in my day isn't as bad as what this person has experienced, it doesn't make it any less of an effect on my mental well-being, right? Because we all process things differently. It goes back to that thing, the saying, um, uh, "No man steps in the same river twice," right?
Mm,
Because he's not the same man and it's not the same river.
right.
And it's really true. Our lives are also fluid and moving so rapidly, and I think that those understanding other people's experiences in life is really, um, you know, a way for us to know that we're not alone,
Yeah.
first of all, but also to understand how we can better maneuver and better, switch that lens when things get hard and um, redefine our coping mechanisms. I
Yeah.
think is a really crucial element as well.
Yeah. Totally. It's the whole saying, what is it for a man to gain the whole world and lose his soul? The flip
Mhm.
side of that is, what is it to lose the whole world and lose your soul? So, you want to lose the whole world, but still hold on to your soul. And this
Right.
concept of freedom, this concept of free choice, it's really fascinating. One of the questions,
It
oh, go ahead, because I have a follow-up
you
question I
know
want to ask you.
yeah, what's your follow-up question?
Well, I wanted to ask you, what led you down this road? Because maybe I'm misspeaking here, but in the hunting world, you would be quote unquote a hunting celebrity, right? You've been on TV, people know you, they recognize you, and yet throw all that aside, you're just a human being. We're all
Mhm.
just human beings. What led you down this road of pursuing like this concept of meditation, to pursue this self satisfaction, gratitude, grounding, how you view the world? Because for me, I didn't really reach this until maybe a few years ago. And for all the people listening to this
Mhm.
podcast that they're brand new to these concepts we're talking about, what was it that was like this, okay, aha moment? I'm
Mhm.
going to change my thoughts.
Yeah, so, like anyone who's followed my career over the past decade, I have been most well known for different hunting TV shows. My hunting career is amazing. Worked in, production, TV stuff. I mean, it's been fabulous. It's been really, who would have known
It's
to
been
make a
awesome.
living? Pretty amazing. Don't get me wrong. Now I've shifted into the corporate world, which is even better for me. I love it. Um, so, you know, life is so funny. I went through just a difficult situation. I have a degree in psychology. I studied hypnotherapy. I've always had an interest in human behavior, why we do what we do, why we are who we are. And I went through a kind of a difficult time in life. A relationship that went bad, and I know that you know, basically every human has either been betrayed or betrayed others, and it's
Mm,
part of being a human, right? And I think that you just have to eventually come to terms with that and find grace for other humans. I went through just a terrible situation a few years ago, and it's not something I've ever really talked publicly about out of, respect for other people. But moving through that situation brought me to my knees and kind of made me reevaluate life, everything about life, everything I knew about love and trust and understanding like why, like what what is happening, what is going on, and taking deep breaths really solved a lot of my problems. And I
Mm,
know that's like something that it sounds like a silly answer, but taking deep breaths got me through a lot of days. Days when maybe I didn't want to get out of bed and maybe I didn't want to have conversations. I didn't want to, face what was actually happening in my world. And maybe I wanted to divert or use different coping mechanisms that weren't healthy for me. I found that breathing into it and really kind of like coming to terms with just being a human and having grace for other people, one day at a time. And the other thing is doing the next best thing, right? So what's the next best thing for me to do? Is it to wake up and wash my face? Yeah, okay, let's do that. So like just literally one thing at a time. And I think that anybody struggling or going through a hard time in life, during that transitional phase of everything just got disrupted, and that can be anything. That can be the world situation right now. That can be politics. That can be a personal relationship that has ended, or betrayal in some way, or pain, or death. It can be a lot of different things for different people. But doing the next best thing for you and finding what that means to you. I think that one day you wake up and that pain has subsided a little bit. And for me, I found my healing in nature and taking deep breaths and moving through it one day at a time. And so when I came up with the idea for Unwind, it really feels good to know that thousands and thousands of people have this product, this service in their hand, and they can fall asleep to it or they can wake up to it. They can hand it to their kids. They can find a moment during the day to use the service that we're providing to just get through that 1 minute of life that they need to get through. If you're having a hard day at work, or if something bad happens, or if your relationship is going up in flames, just do some of the guided meditations. Some of the guided imagery therapy can be really helpful. It can kind of transport you, even for 5 minutes. Just get out of your own world for a second, and don't do it on social media. Like, just go into your own mind, think about the hard things for a second, think about your breath, think about taking the next breath and doing the next best thing for yourself.
oh man.
And for me, that's what worked. And I can honestly say that here I am, you know, I got I didn't just get past the hard times. I didn't survive it. I thrived through it. And I did really well, learning about myself and understanding what makes me happy in life, and finding the silver lining
Yeah,
and finding joy in all those moments that other people would think are just silly little moments. I'm finding so much joy and happiness in those moments, and providing that service for other people is kind of the reason why I want to wake up in the mornings and the reason why I want to keep staying up late at night to do more work. It's just a beautiful thing to be able to provide that for people who may also be going through a difficult time.
totally. One of the things that Viktor Frankl says in his book is that if we don't have something to put hope in, then we lose hope, and then when you lose hope,
Mhm,
what's the point? And so a lot of times it's the hope of reuniting with a loved one was
mhm,
a lot of the things that kept these people going in internment camps. And I love that you said you focus on the next thing, right? Like I got to wake
mhm.
up and just wash my face.
Yeah,
Um,
just next best thing.
the concept of like how do you run 100 miles one step at a time,
Yep.
and it's not so much that you look at like the end destination of like, oh my gosh, what is happening. One step at a time, just keep going.
Mhm,
um, and really, how amazing is it for us as human beings and the human spirit to look back and acknowledge ourselves for what we overcame?
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's wonderful. And that's why people in my personal life, when we talk about the hard times that I went through, or something comes up and, I reminisce on something that has happened, or, it eventually the wound turns into a scar and it doesn't hurt anymore, but it's still there. It's still visible. It's still a part of your life and it's still a part of you. But it's not a wound anymore. It doesn't hurt in the same way, but it's recognizable. And eventually, you kind of look forward to people asking about it because it's a part of the story,
Yes.
and it can be a beautiful thing. Just because it's a bad thing or a difficult time in your life doesn't mean that you always have to look at it in a negative light. You can look at that as the most beautiful learning experience you've ever had. And look how strong I am. I am strong and I am brave and I can do amazing things, right?
Yes.
I mean,
Yes.
it all comes back. It all comes full circle there. And you say, okay, so there it is in the mornings or at night before you go to anytime during the day. If I start having a little self doubt, look at the things I've come through. Look at the things that I've provided to the world around me that are beautiful, and the friendships and the love that I've put into the world, and grace I've had for people, and experiences that I've enjoyed. Like, I am great, and
Yeah.
I am nice, and I am
Yes.
kind. And
Yes.
it just, you get to that point where those difficult moments in life turn into your affirmations later.
Yeah. And you can be all of that and recognize that you're not there yet.
Yeah, of course.
Y- You know,
Yeah.
I
And that's where it comes back to surrounding yourself with the right people who remind you you can get there.
Yes. And that's
Yeah.
not only just for you in your personal life, but like with our jobs or our careers or like, I have this social media platform and this mission and I'm like, "Oh, dude, this is really
Mhm.
cool what I've built." And yet it's not where I want it to be.
Right.
And it's okay to acknowledge yourself and be like, "Yes, you've done a good job
Mhm.
and you still have more to do."
That's right. Yeah, and you always want more to do. You don't ever want the job to be finished. I mean, that's, you know, even if, we set goals and we say, "Okay, my goal is to do this." Well, when you accomplish that goal, I hope you have another one. I think that that's part of being just, this, ambitious, motivated type of human where, yeah, I want to accomplish my goals. I'm really good at setting goals. I always have more goals.
Yes.
And it's really cool to have people in your life who encourage you to keep setting goals and to say like, "Oh, sure, yeah, you're going to accomplish that, but then what are you going to do?" Right? Because you have more to offer to the world. So let's see it. Like, you can do this. It's going to be incredible.
Yes. So one of the things that turning it more towards like the hunting aspect, being someone
Mhm.
who hasn't hunted a very long time, one of the goals that I had on my board right here was to fill all my tags.
Mhm.
It's like I want to shoot bear, deer, and an elk all in the same year. And for
Mhm.
me, that seemed like such a number one to be able to hunt that much was like holy smokes, that's a lot of time in the field. Number two, that's hard. And this last year I accomplished that.
Yes.
And I was like, "Yes." And I'm having a hard time identifying my goals for this year. And one of my
Mhm.
top goals that I actually finally concluded wasn't even about me. I want to
Mm.
actually get my hunting partners their animals. And
Right.
it's really interesting how that shift happens because once again, it's what we get to give to the world, right?
Right. Yeah. So, one of the goals that I have always set for myself, and having a career in the hunting industry, you would think that, that I would have had a very similar mindset, but I definitely did not build my career on tagging out.
Right.
So, anybody who's followed me knows, like, I have a really good time. It doesn't mean I'm always very successful. Like, I'm always having a fabulous time in the field. Don't usually fill my tags. So, I mean, like, let's just be honest, like, that's kind of not what I'm known for. But, one of my goals every year is I would like to spend X amount of days in the field, right? Because to me, it's how much time can I get outside? How much time can I spend being in the outdoors? I don't think I've ever set a goal of I want to do, fill these tags or do this, which I'm not saying it's a bad thing to have those goals, but because it's not ever been something that I, have put that much, not that I don't put effort into filling my tags. I don't want people to get the wrong idea, but I've always just been kind of like, yay, let's go elk hunting. Awesome. I'm not really gonna like try that hard, but look at this tree. I just get excited about being in nature and like documenting the other animals and, a new flower I've never seen before. And I just get really excited about nature in general and just being out there experiencing it. So my goal has always been how much time can I spend outside like before I get tired? Like what no, like how can I just live in a tent somewhere and not become homeless if, officially.
Yeah,
So
totally.
like that to me has always been one of my major things. Like if I say, okay, I'm gonna go turkey hunting for 2 days, my goal is technically I'm gonna go for 4 days. I'm just not gonna tell anybody that. So, it's like, but I think that it's good for you to be setting those goals and for you to be, including other people in your goals is so crucial because you have built a platform and you do have influence and you do have that ability to not just educate other people, but inspire other people.
Mm.
And so I think that the healthiest thing for you is to, set your goals around that specifically. Like, what can I do for other people now? Because I think it probably makes a bigger difference than what you think. I know you do have a lot of influence in the people that you inspire daily. So I think
Ah,
that's a really healthy path for you to take.
I appreciate that. It means a lot, and I accept it. Just I really appreciate it. It two things that you really hit on the head, and I love. So one of the first times I ever spoke with Robbie Kroger of Blood Origins, he was talking about this.
I love Robbie.
He's
Yeah.
such an incredible person, and even like when I saw him in person, I was like, dude, come here, give me a hug, man. Like you were such a cool cat. You're my kind of guy, and
Yeah.
so we were talking about the evolution of like hunting. And he's like, yeah, when people first start hunting, if it flies, it dies. If it's brown, it's down. And
Mhm.
I'm in that evolution currently because I've only been at it for so short that I'm like, yes, yes. And then last year, because I've like notched all these tags or even just check marked all these things that I wanted to accomplish, that it is
Yeah.
now this concept of like, man, it really isn't about me filling tags. It's I want to
Mhm.
support other people. And what you
Right.
said about like the days in the field and like the flowers and the trees. And have you ever seen the movie Garden State?
I don't
This
think
was
so.
Zach Braff, I think is the name of one of the actors that's in it. Anyways, the whole
Uh-huh.
concept of like this movie is like we are the first and only people who have ever done this thing at this exact moment in this exact place in the world. And so, they're standing in a rainstorm and just like waving their arms in the air and be like, ah. And they're like, see, we just made history because no one has ever done that right here, right now, in this moment.
I
I
love that.
I love it too. And that's also I like that's how I view life. And it's not easy to always view life like that. And
Right.
yet when you do, it becomes fun. Fun comes back into life.
Yeah. That's literally what I built my career on, having fun. And I know like it sounds crazy to say that, but it's true. I have had more fun than anyone I know. And it's because it's my story. And I can say that. I'm making the story up as I go. So I can say whatever I want and it's true. So when you look at life that way and you're just like, no, yeah, this is amazing. I'm gonna go look at some trees. And no one else ever touched these leaves before. So I'm gonna walk up to this tree and touch these leaves. No other human has ever touched them. I'm the first one to do it.
Yeah.
Like, that's a really incredible thing. Or, even if you do fill a tag and you walk up to that animal and you place your hands on it, no other human has likely ever touched that animal unless if it was some bizarre situation, right?
I've never
But
thought of that one. That's good. I really like
there's
that.
something too going up and being the first human to ever have physical contact with that animal that's now going to bless your family with its meat. Or, like however you look at that in a spiritual way, no other human hand has ever touched it. And I definitely have had hundreds of moments in the field where I'll stand in a spot and look down at my feet and go, I don't know if any other humans ever stood here before.
Yes.
They might have, but in my mind, they haven't. And so I can convince myself I'm the first person to stand on this specific rock. And that's a cool feeling. I feel like that is part of our power. And that's part of our story, even if it's only our story and it's not actually true. Maybe 10 other people stood there last year. I don't know. But in my mind, it gives me power because now I'm in nature and I'm standing in a place where I don't think anyone else has ever stood before, looking at a view that may be only for my eyes. And that's what's always connected me to nature and the outdoors and the peace and solitude that I can feel out there. And that's the reason I have so much fun doing it.
That's
It
in
never gets
Yes, you literally just gave me a whole new perspective on how to view hunting. I can't wait to talk about this more because that just blew my mind. I really love that because I always talk about, when I get out into nature, I'm renewing my soul and I'm doing it for myself. It's like when you make history for yourself, like that's powerful. Everyone always, I don't, maybe I'm speaking out of line, but I feel like everyone wants to be remembered,
yeah.
right? And so when you make history for yourself, you are being remembered, maybe in your own mind, but that's powerful.
That's right. Absolutely. And that's the power we can give to ourselves every day. Every day that we're not even in the field, every day I walk into my office, I'm going to send an email that's never been sent before. And I'm going to do it fabulously in the best way possible. I'm going to put all of my love and energy into whatever it is I'm doing in that moment. And that's why I walk around like I'm on cloud nine all the time. I'm so excited to be here. And I think that's, to bring it full circle, that's the affirmations and the manifestation part of what we do is I am very powerful and very happy and I am ecstatic to
Yeah.
have come this far in life. And I mean, I'm going to walk in here and just absolutely do my very best every single day because that's all I can do.
Yes. I
Yeah.
love it. I love it. What are, and you have already said some of this stuff within this episode already, but for the listeners, just kind of like recap. What are maybe three things that you do for yourself on a daily basis to help center, ground yourself, to identify and take care of your soul?
Mhm. Yeah, so I meditate every day, and sometimes I'll go into my meditation space where I won't be interrupted. And sometimes I'll just sit in there and um, if I have so just to clarify, some people think that meditation is to go and forget everything and not think of anything, and you have to, oh my gosh, how do I clear my mind? If I have a really difficult thing happening in my life, like at work, and a decision that I need to make, I will go and I will meditate on that thing specifically in that moment. It doesn't mean I can't think about it. It doesn't mean I have to clear my mind. It's just thinking intently, right? And thinking with intention and allowing your mind to go to that place and focus or focus on the breath. I have begun every single day to allow um, myself to decide what it is I need to meditate on that day, right? So I don't I don't judge myself in that moment. If I say I want to meditate on what I'm going to make for dinner tonight, okay, give myself the freedom to do something silly, right? Like, okay, let's just lose our minds for a minute and think about something weird. That's fine too. I think that having grace for ourselves and just giving ourselves that moment of peace, taking some deep breaths, meditating on something, whatever it is, because it's a practice. I think
Yeah.
remembering that it's a practice is a big step. Another thing that I do pretty much every single day is obviously I have a dog, And a lot of people who have their dogs, they'll take their dog for a walk, but they're so busy on their phones and they're scrolling social media and they are, distracted, responding to emails on the phone. I put my phone away and I go for a walk with my dog and I am fully present because I know that someday he won't be here anymore and I'm going to regret any moment that I did not take the time to take him for a walk and have time with him. And I know that might sound like a crazy dog mom thing to say, but it's healthy for me to be present in those moments and to really go for a walk with my dog. I mean, I think it's a very underrated form of therapy.
Yeah.
If I'm being honest.
Well,
You know, no distraction, no phone call, no emails, no social media. Just walk with your dog.
yeah. Well,
Just
and
be
it's better than walking with your cat because that would just be really weird. So
I mean, yes, it's true. If I had a cat, you would not find me saying the same thing for sure.
this is why having dogs is so much better, everybody.
Right? And I guess the other thing that I do is I have found a very healthy sleep routine. For me, sleep is important. I'm a very busy person. I work a lot and I have a lot on my plate, a lot of things going on. I shut it down an hour before I'm going to bed at night. I don't look at my social media. I don't respond to messages. I literally do nothing. Sometimes I'll read a book, I'll listen to an audiobook once in a while, I'll clean something, but I kind of like use the hour before I'm going to bed to detox from my life. And then I listen to sleep stories and I fall asleep and I get better sleep these days than I ever have in my life because that's the way that my brain is able to shut down.
Yeah.
And I think that being mindful of how you're sleeping at night, not just how long you're sleeping at night, but how are you sleeping? Are you really getting decent sleep at night? I think that that's another healthy thing that I've really, um, you know, I've developed that habit for myself. It's because I owe that to myself. I cannot function at my level if I am not meditating every day, taking time for myself, and getting really good sleep at night.
Yeah. Powerful. Powerful. Absolutely love it. Everybody, Jules McQueen, the one and only, the beautiful soul. Thanks for dropping so much wisdom and insight on how to take care of your soul and so that you can create such a wonderful product to help other people identify and take care of their own soul and blessing the world with your creation and your gifts. So thank you so much for coming on this episode.
Oh, thanks for having me on. I always enjoy our conversations.
They are awesome. And for all you listeners, go check out Carbon Unwind. It's and if that's not typically your thing, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. So if you really want an actual change in your life, then try something new. And one of
That's
those
right.
things could be Carbon Unwind. So, Jules, thank you so much for coming on. Really appreciate it. Really always truly enjoy these conversations. Everybody, be blessed, be of good cheer. Know that life happens for you, not to you. Freedom on. And as always, stay soulful. If you enjoyed today's podcast, I'd love it if you could go ahead and give this a rating as well as subscribe. Also, you can check us out on Instagram under the Soulful Hunter Podcast. Make sure to tag us in pictures and posts and use the hashtag Soulful Hunter. To find out more about the Soulful Hunter Podcast, go to soulfulhunter.com and be sure to follow the podcast as we are going to be bringing you a lot of great information, insight, and changing lives through primal adventure. I look forward to connecting with you on the next episode. Stay tuned and stay soulful.